There we go. I really don't understand this. So many people, Mohammedans, Roman Catholics, even Protestants, and Jews that comes to believe in Jesus, and so forward, believe we're going to heaven when we die. I just, Yeshua said, the meek shall inherit the earth, if I remember correctly. And primarily, I think in the book of Matthew, when he talks about, he talks about, yeah, well, the meek shall inherit the earth. Wait, they shall inherit the earth? Yeah. Um, then when we have the prayer, right? That that we, you know, let thy kingdom come, and as it is in the heavens, so let it be on earth, right? What are we expecting in the future? Well, we're expecting Yeshua to come back and set up his kingdom for 1,000 years. You know, you're going to rule from Jerusalem the nations of the world. We have the first resurrection at that point. So, which seems to actually that the Christians actually believed that they were going to be resurrected when Yeshua comes back. I'm still doing research on all that and all that, but as far as I can see, they didn't believe they were going to heaven. Then we go to Justin Martyr, for example, a second century. Now, of course, I have to be careful, but anyway, he says that if you meet someone that says they're Christian and they believe they got going into the heavens, I'm going to use the plural term here. Don't even think, don't even believe they're Christians. I'm like, oh my, it's not word for word, but the meaning is there. It's like, okay, we have in the fourth century, one of the Romanizers, I think it's Eusebius or something like that, and he has this book that he writes against so-called heretics, and he writes against the Nazarenes, which are the first believers. And he talks about, they believe as we do and so forward. And in regards to the resurrection, they believe as we do. A resurrection. Oh, that's the resurrection thing. Not going directly to heaven, but the resurrection. Of course, in regards of when we see that, I think it's Peter they're talking about resurrection in the name of Yeshua. And they don't like them, they don't like the disciples teaching this doctrine of resurrection in the name of Yeshua. So that's another point. Then we have the letter back to Bishop Victor, where from Asia Minor, that's the area that rejected Roman Pharisee Paulus in the first century. They don't mention Paulus in this letter, which is also interesting. And that's the second century, end of the second century. And Bishop Victor in Rome does what is prophesied and thinking to change times and laws and all that. And we have a wonderful letter coming back from Asia Minor to Bishop Victor in Rome. And he mentions Apostle John, Apostle Philip, and all that, both being in the area. And he mentions other people talking about that they are sleeping, the resurrection, awaiting. I think they say, he's called, what is he called? Polygratus. That is Polygratus. Now, not Polycarp. Polygratus. Polycarp is another one. He goes. I think it's in the beginning of the second century. He goes to Rome and tries to, because they already have an issue there in regards of Easter, in regards of Roman tradition, in regards of Easter, which is usually what we are keeping in our days, which is Roman bullshit tradition. Anyway, he goes to Rome to try to correct them, and they don't want to be corrected, keeping on to the bullshit traditions and all that. And so And later, in the same century, Rome has the audacity, I think it's called in English, to actually try to, hey, you need to keep it in regards to Rome, in regards to Roman tradition. Well, Polycrates is not so easily persuaded. And he writes back, and we have the letter, and it's a wonderful letter. Now, it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like he believes we're going to heaven either. That we are sleeping, awaiting the resurrection. The question is the first resurrection or the second resurrection? And it might be the first. It seems like that, also in regards to the New Testament, it does seem to point that it's the first resurrection. But I'm still, studying this. It's the first or the second resurrection, So yeah, Yeshua talks about the first shall be the last, and the last shall be the first. But I need to restudy these, because there could be different interpretations in regards to how that is to be understood, and I don't know how it's I need more puzzle pieces for the because I think I have like two possibilities in regards to this. How to understand it. So I really need to reread it in regards to the context. So what Yeshua actually means by this. But yeah, so we have these, different sources, not talking about going directly to heaven when we die. And of course, in regards to Roman Catholicism, they believe that, they're either going to purgatory, right? Or in the heavens. And purgatory is like so-called Holy Spirit hospital, where you go for a time before you, and of course it's a great money machine for the Roman Catholic bullshit system of the Antichrist, the Roman mystery religion of Rome, which just have taken sheep clothing. Now, of course, the seeds were sown after the Messiah had sown the good eatable wheat. And then someone came around and sowed the poisonous darnel, and they amalgamated with the Roman mystery religion in regards of Constantine, and that would be around 300, the beginning of the 4th century, I think it's called, in regards to the beginning of the 300, and Constantine comes, and we have the council in 325, and that's of course where they are continuing with the bullshit of, that we're now all in agreement in regards of keeping it, in regards of Roman traditions, in regards of Easter and all that. If I had the right document, at least I haven't verified it earlier, but it shouldn't be any. It should be authentic. It's the last part of that document that talks about that. We are now all in agreement. Apparently, that's not true because there's a lot of persecution, a lot of killing going on, murdering in the 4th century, and there's a lot of things going on in the 4th century. And I really would like to dig more into that. There must be a lot of history. I've seen a little here and a little there, and getting all the pieces together, but. There must be someone that has written some really good history of the 4th century. You have the Mithraists that coming into the Roman Catholic Church. You have the high pagan priest of Sol Invictus in regards to Mithra, Sol Invictus. Sol Invictus, as I understand it, is an ecumenical term. So all the sun worshippers, whatever name they, can celebrate, Sol Invictus, on the birth of the sun, in regards of Christ Mass that we're keeping today, in regards to the winter solstice, which also was invented in the 4th century, by the way, in regards of Rome, and Sunday law as well, bullshit Sunday law in regards of Sol Invictus again. That's the unconquerable sun god, pagan sun god, bullshit, and all that. And of course, Constantine was the high pagan priest of Sol Invictus. Oh, yeah, he was. I thought he was a Christian. Well, he was the Pontifex Maximus. And the Pontifex Maximus in regards of the solar deity. Oh, yeah. And of course, they wanted to get away from Jewish, things and all that, right? I guess they forgot that Yeshua was actually a Jew, I guess, just. Anyway, so a lot of killings going on and all that, and a lot of things going on in the fourth century. Now, of course, in regards, if you take John Chrysostom in the late 4th century, he's talking about there are many in our ranks, many in our ranks in regards of wanting to keep the festivals or keeping the festivals. And, that's against the, what is it called? I think I have it here. Yeah, let's see here. It's like eight sermons in regards of called John Chrysostom against the Jews. Homily 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 and 8, and also the missing part. I found the missing part someplace and collected it all together and all that. But so yeah, what is this disease, he says? The festivals of the pitiful and miserable Jews are soon to march upon us, one after the other, and in quick succession. The Feast of Trumpets, which is biblical, by the way, found in the 5 books of Moses. The Feast of Tabernacle, also biblical. The fast, I'm not sure why there's plural, but anyway, I just understand it one in regard. But anyway, there are many. Oh, what did he say? Many. Oh, many, many, many in our ranks who say they think as we do. Yet some of these are going to watch the festivals, and others will join the Jews in keeping their feast and observing their fast. Again, plural. I'm not sure the fast plural thing. What is that? What's that going about? I wish to drive this perverse custom from the church right now. Yeah, he's a Romanizer. He actually begins to promote Christ Mass. Yeah. And apparently there's some division because this is a new tradition. So some of the Christians, in this fellowship, are discussing, no, this is not something we had kept. And also there's apparently a lot of, conflict in regards to that because it was something new coming from Rome. He actually even talks about it coming from Rome, that Rome knew when Yeshua was, in the 4th century, and couldn't have anything to do with sun worship, that the Mithraists and other sun worshippers kept the winter solstice in regards of the birth of the sun god, right? Couldn't have anything to do with that, could it? To get the Mithraists into the Roman Catholic pagan institution of Mystery Babylon the Great, who just took on cheap clothing. Yeah. Anyway, I guess it couldn't be anything anyway. So he begins to you begin to see the links, what is going on and all that. But of course, so yeah, attacking the Judaizers, right? Those horrible Judaizers that just want to follow after Yeshua, because Yeshua was keeping all these festivals found in the 5 books of Moses. He wasn't keeping all those Roman bullshit traditions. Like we are all keeping all these Roman bullshit traditions in our days. Oh, yep. The pagan New Year of Janus. Yep, two-headed Roman god and all that, looking in both directions. Bullshit. Christ Mass. Oh, the Mass of the Roman Catholics. Their false cookie Jesus. Their round solar disc where they put it in a monstrance of solar rays. Oh, couldn't have anything to do with solar worship, Then we have the Sunday, right? Sunday is a very important day for the Roman Catholics, maybe because they are actually into solar worship and not the truth. Anyway, and then you see the Antichrist on the television in regards to this date. He was on 0000 o'clock in the night or midnight. He was on the television for 2 hours. I didn't see it, but that was the time that they say he went. Last year I tried to see it. I just couldn't see that bullshit. That was utterly disgusting. That was, idolatry, whoring with Satan. I couldn't see more of that. Anyway, it's just utter bullshit. Oh, this disgusting system of Romanism. Anyway, and Easter in regards of the pagan goddess Easter, which also is the queen of heaven and is in regards of the star of Venus. Of course, we call it the planet in our days, but I think they understood it as a star, and the most brightest star and all that. Anyway, of course, they have their Mary bullshit and all that, right? Holding. Isn't it actually? I think it's a statue of Mary holding the so-called Mary holding the sun in her hands. Oh yeah, it's just there we go. So it couldn't have anything to do with sun worship, could it? The sun, the moon, and the star Venus. In regards of Sumerian and Babylonian and Assyrian and all the many of these religion or religion, what is it called? If you go look at some of the pictures from Sumeria, which is actually Shinaria in regards of biblical Shinar, that's the first civilization and all that. If you actually go look at the pictures, you can see these three triad of gods that they have. It's the moon, that's a male, that's the father, whatever. Then you have the sun, which is the solar, the planet, the sun. So you have the moon, you have the sun, and you have Easter or Inanna or Venus, which is also called the Queen of Heaven. Well, it comes in many, different names and all that, variations and all that bullshit. But we have the moon, the moon, so-called god of theirs. We have the sun god, so-called god. And we have, in regards of the Easter or Inanna or whatever name that is out there, many different names. So you can look that up in an encyclopedia, do some research and all that. So maybe Roman Catholicism is actually just pagan bullshit. Yeah, just in sheep clothing. Yeah, and the thing is, Protestants knew this. They knew who the Antichrist was of the number 666. They knew who the whore riding the authority of the beast is. Now, of course, the whore is going to be destroyed at some point. So, yeah, might actually not be that long before things really go haywire. But we'll have to see. I think we're closer than we think. But anyway, the world running wild into a lot of they're pretty much drowning in their own puke nowadays. It's very sad to see, just running away from God's law and His Son in regards of salvation, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. Anyway, so we had the sun, and of course the Mohammedans have the moon, right? And then we have the sometimes they have where you have the moon and the sun. And after beginning to open up of that, I'll be more capable of actually picking it up. After doing some studies on Sumeria and Syria and the Babylonians and other things in regards of the usually Inanna, Easter, or Venus is portrayed as an 8-pointed star, but apparently she could also be portrayed as the so-called Star of David, which is interesting for sure. And I'm trying to get more information on that, but apparently it seems like they're hiding the facts or something like that. I think the two pictures I can remember seeing, it was from Sumeria, and they were using the 6-pointed star of so-called David. But of course, this is long, long before the so-called Star of David. So, which is interesting, isn't it? So, but there's probably more images of these, they have these rolls in clay and then you roll them out and you get an image and all that. And of course, there's others where they just have it put into stone and all that. Yeah. So, and of course you have paganism that evolves a little here and a little there and borrows from this and that and it goes from one nation to another nation and then back again and all that. It's just a big mess of pagan bullshit, So there's some variations here and there and all that. But when you have different so-called gods, pagan gods, whatever, satanic gods, worshipping Satan and all that, and they are called, like for example, Queen of Heaven, Just, they have different names. There might be some characteristics that is different. But, calling Queen of Heaven, one title. And also connecting her with Venus. That's interesting, isn't it? It couldn't be any coincidence, could it? I don't know. I think that could. And there's probably more, but these are two things that I've found that seems to be things that, were different names of so-called gods and all that are connected with the star Venus, or the planet Venus, which, as I understand it, is the most visible star in the heavens. So I guess that might be one of the reasons I don't know. But again, this is a triad. This is a pagan triad or trinity. I was one that said, but triad is not the same as trinity. And I'm like, come on, which I actually think is one of, I think he might be one of those going out doing damage control in regards of all this paganism. But at least one have to be careful. It seems like, I don't know all the story of this triad thing, but apparently it seems like it was very important for a lot of the pagan nations. And yeah, there was many other gods, but these three specifically, you have images again and again and again, with these three, so-called gods. Let's see, the names. The first, the moon god, right? Hey, you Mohammedans, you have the moon, don't you? Anyway. Of course, Roman Catholicism and Mohammedanism is pretty much two sides of the same coin, but of course Rome is in control. Anyway, they both hate real Christians and, persecutes them and all that. But of course Roman Catholicism is actually the worst of them, because that's making it itself out to actually be, sheep, Christian, which is not. Mohammedans are just pretty much stinking wolves, you should be able to smell them miles away without any problem, Muhammad was clearly a false prophet. But yeah, denying that Yeshua was the Son of God, and denying that he was executed on a tree for the sins of the world, and thereby also denying that he, resurrected again. And denying that, of course, that he was God in the flesh, So anyway, so of course he's just stinking wolf, stinking wolf, but anyway, so we have the moon, which is called Nana, and also called Sin, and that's the moon. That's the moon. Then we have Shamash, which also is interesting because the middle candle of the Hanukkah candle bullshit and all that with 9 candles instead of 7. Actually, the middle, the so-called helper and was like helper and. It's like a helper and those two words that in regards to this. Apparently it's said to go back to an Aramean word and not a Hebrew word. It was like helper, or I can't remember the other word, but so that's what they say it is. But Shamash, it's the exact same word that is used in regards of the pagan god of Shamash, which is the sun god. Anyway, that's, whatever. That's things in regards of Hanukkah. I'm not keeping Hanukkah, and I wouldn't keep it. It's, as I can see, there's too many problems. I should actually write them down, because I've already now have forgotten a lot of the things that I was researching. But, for me, I'm just not going to keep it. I see too many problems with it. Which, apparently it seems like I've just had some couple of days, maybe a little more than couple of days, toying around with some things on the computer. So I've not been on the topic for, so it's like a full cup. I fill something in it and something else jumps out. It's not like in my youth where I was just an empty vessel pretty much, which I just could fill up. So anyway, yeah. So we have Shamash, and Shamash is also known as Shamash. Let's see. No, 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 no. What was the name for Shamash? Good question. But that's in regards to the sun and the solar deity and all that. Oh, what was the name of Shamash? You see already. It's already. It's not that long that I studied it, but there's so many. I can easily find the information again. It's not like it's hard. You just search Shamash and all that. And actually, maybe I should just do that. Incredible. I know it, but I just don't know it at the moment. There's too much things in my. There we go. Let's see here. Shamash, yeah, what's the other name? Yeah, but what's the name of that? So we have Easter, which is the Sumerian Inanna and all that. The facts is fact. You can just look up in encyclopedias and you can get, oh, here we go, Shamash. Uto, oh yeah, that's true. Okay, so Shamash in regards of Akkadian, according to this, Sumerian Uto. So you have Uto, which is the sun. And then you have the moon, which is Sin, and in Sumerian Nana, and Easter, which is Sumerian Inanna. And Inanna, apparently, as far as I could see from the research that I have done, that I've is actually meaning something like the Queen of Heaven. So even in her name, or in this pagan, god, in the name itself, actually, now I've seen two variations, at least two variations that I can remember off the top of my head. A little differences in regards to, but pretty much, I think one of the sources talked about the language in regards of Nin, I think Nin Nana or something like that. Have two words in regards to this language put together in regards of Inanna, which means, I can't remember what they are, but it's something close to Queen of Heaven, pretty much, in the idea of it. So she's also called the Queen of Heaven. That's Easter, and we're keeping Easter in the spring, right? Not Passover, but Easter. Anyway, the goddess of Venus was part of an astral triad of divinity. Shamash was the son of Sin. Now, there are some variations in regards to this triad. It's interesting because the sources I've looked into, there's like, oh, this and that and this and that. Hey, I want to know about that one. That's what you see all the images, and these symbols, the moon represents, the moon god, of course. And then you see the sun where, usually a fall out, and then some rays fall of those as well. So you have like in some sense, 8 things. It's just, star looking. And then you have Easter, which is usually also 8 points of a star. But apparently she can also be a 6-pointed star. And I read something in regards of was it like 16-pointed star or something. Apparently there's also other symbols that goes back to her. To this, pagan bullshit. Again, these different societies picks up. I think it was the flower or the gate or something like, different things that symbolizes this, many years go by, right? And then things tends to evolve or whatever. But you can find this triad on so many pictures, and apparently there should, as I understand it, there's another triad as well, but it doesn't seem like it has the same popularity, because again, when you look at the images, then when you look at the images, you see those 3, the symbols of them, or them as characters. So yeah, anyway, so I'm just trying to figure, it seems like those people that it just seems like they're seemingly, they don't want to talk about it. Apparently, I found an Aramean source, a Syrian or something like that, on a website and all that. He was angry that the Jews had stolen their star of, their star, and of course the Syrians, I've seen that they have some of that have the eye, for example, and they have some of that pagan bullshit. Actually, when I'm thinking, yeah, they actually have a lot of that, and I just didn't see it before. Remembering back, that's but they also had these 7 planets thing as well. I saw some clothing from there's a lot of things. So yeah, that seems to actually. But he was angry that the Jews had stolen their star. Yeah, well, and he talks about that this star, which is the so-called Star of David, was actually known in regards of geologists or what it was called as the Star of Easter. There must be some images around that I haven't, I've seen 2 images in regards. There must be a lot of more images in regards of, So if they know it as the Star of Easter, why is this not normal knowledge in the world? They also found apparently 2 stars of these 6-pointed stars in Egypt, and apparently the Mohammedans went totally haywire, and were accusing those that found them that they had put it in the brick. Apparently they found it in as I understand, a Roman temple. So why would the Romans have a 6-pointed star? Well, so looking at it in some sense, that the Mohammedans have the moon, and the Roman Catholics pretty much have the sun. That, and then you have, well, if the 6-pointed star is Easter, I don't know. It's just there's a lot of pagan bullshit, and sadly, the Jews did reject their Messiah, and they are into Jewish mysticism and all that. But there is more and more Jews coming to the belief in Christ, so it's wonderful to see, Oh yeah, we're talking about in regards to the heaven doctrine, right? I totally went off topic by that. So yeah, I guess that's interesting also if you think about that, the sun, the moon, and then if it is interesting, and maybe in regards of going back to actually figuring out what is going on with this triad. Because again, I have had difficulty. Of course, I can see the encyclopedia and all that and information on that, but it still seems to be missing something. Something seems to be missing. There's something that is not being told. And there's a lot of writings on these things. So there must be writings about what is actually, in regards to these, going back to Babylon, in regards of. When they were starting to create this tower, and Jehovah went down, saying, let us go down, and confuse their languages because they're doing this stupidity. We're already straying. The worldwide flood has just been there, and some people apparently still know about the flood because these flood stories also go out all over the world, it seems, in regards of multiple flood stories that we have with some of the same characteristics and all that. But then, of course, people will say, oh, the Bible just platonized these stories and all that, right? You can't win. Either people takes it totally in one direction. We don't have any stories of the flood. If the flood was true, we would have, stories about it from others and all that. Well, we do. And then they go to the other direction. Oh, no. The Bible just platonized these, so-called myths, as they call them. And now, of course, these stories do have some variations and all that, but it is still interesting that we have so many stories of floods, right? Maybe because there was a flood, And maybe Satan, as usual, tried to twist things and make his own stories in regards of it, and trying to, fix the, take the truth from the side in some sense, right? Trying to take the truth out as usually as he does. Anyway, so Shamash as the solar deity exercised the power of light. And then you also can see in regards to these going far back, you see the moon, and then you see the sun in the moon as well. So already we have that picture as well. Some of the Catholics, they have the moon, and then you have the sun in it. And you also see this, and I found a thing, a so-called amulet. It seemed more like something you stand. And what does it look like? Well, the sun in the moon. And then you have the Eye of Ra in the middle of it. They sold it for $250 or something like that. Whatever. So apparently in Egypt, and the Eye of Ra is, as far as I remember, connected to solar worship as well. So, Satan pretty much. Yeah. So it's interesting. But a lot of people believe we're going to heaven when we die, and that just doesn't seem right, that doesn't seem to be correct, And of course, you see a lot of where they are promoting this, where they actually have a lot of good information, and yet, again, they have a good information and all that, but Chick Publication, are promoting the going directly to heaven. And they're also promoting, they're also having images of God in the cartoons. And I had to, I was afraid that I was maybe cursing myself because I had a lot of activity going on when I, had them. And there was really, really some good information in these magazines for sure. There's a good amount of truth for sure. But I was just not so comfortable having images of God in my home. And, I got some, real activity going on. And again, I don't know if it was because there was too much truth in these magazines, or if it was actually, if I was cursing myself by taking something that, would be a very sneaky attack, right? Providing you with truth and then, cursing you with actually, I don't know, but I ended up throwing them out. But, the 5 magazines in regards of Alberto Rivera was absolutely the best, of all the cartoons. That was, and a lot of the information just went over my head, for sure. But I can't remember if there was any depiction of God in those magazines. But overall, I ended up trashing them all. And I don't know, maybe, there's 2 possibilities. Either I was cursing myself because they were depicting God, in the magazines, or maybe because there was too much truth and the devil don't want the truth out. I don't know. I can only see those 2 options. But in any case, over time you find out that Alberto Rivera, he was telling the truth on many, many, many things. So, and you begin to find out, and verify, yeah, it's true, and this is true, and this is true, and this is, and that. It's not to say that everything is true in regards of, but I think it seems he did his best to actually tell the truth, and he might have been killed by it. But I'm still, it's just, what concerns me is that they promote this doctrine of going directly to heaven, and they do it really, they're really, really, they're really, what do you call it, putting their foot on the pedal in regards to this doctrine of going to heaven. And what could be the reason for someone doing that? That's just my take. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But, if the Roman Catholics believe that they're going directly to heaven when they die, or purgatory or whatever bullshit, to actually, to make an ecumenical closeness with Protestants, right? If the Protestants believe that they're going to heaven as well when they die, well, that's closing the gap, isn't it? It's much easier to then get them, we're just brothers, and the Protestants are just lost brothers and all that. Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to return to the Antichrist, under the wings of the man of the number 666, the high pagan priest of solar worship. No, thank you. I'll skip. But yeah, it's so if you can promote this doctrine of going directly to heaven as the Roman Catholics or the Mohammedans, if they do their jihad and all that, and you get all these 72 virgins and all that bullshit and all that. If you can make them believe that they are also going to heaven, the gap is just much. It's, in regards to this ecumenical movement for getting all the people in the world rounded around the Roman emperor or the Roman Caesar, the Roman king, the triune tyrant, the Pontifex Maximus, the pagan high priest, and so forth. The man of the number 666, the office and seed of the Antichrist, the beast of the number 666. Anyway, so if you can actually make the Protestants believe they're going directly to heaven after they die, you're just closing the gap. As far as, I might be wrong, but as far as I can see, we're not going to heaven when we die. We are awaiting the resurrection when our God resurrects us, And that might be in regards to when Yeshua returns. So that would be the first resurrection. I don't know for sure, but, I'm still trying to figure out how it all, but yeah. But we have either one resurrection or two. We have either the first resurrection or the second resurrection. We know we have two resurrections in the future. The question is, when are we going to be resurrected? And it might be the first resurrection in regards of believers in Yeshua. Although there will still be people that say, Lord, Lord, haven't we done wonderful works and driven out demons and prophesied in your name and so forward? And Yeshua will say to them, verily, truly I say to you that I never knew you, or something like that, And why? Because of lawlessness, iniquity, ye that are without the law. And what law could Yeshua be talking about? Well, of course, the law of Moses, the 5 books of Moses, not Roman law, but, so, any case. Yeah, it's the Roman Catholics pretty much. Wolves in sheep clothing. Really have to be careful. But of course, Yeshua did prophesy about these things. So, of course, when he said something as a prophet, the greatest of prophets in the world, not only, and of course being God as well, he should know, shouldn't he? And if he says something, it should happen, right? And it has. And it's still ongoing. The good eatable wheat are growing up with the bad poisonous darnel. And what did Yeshua say? Be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees, and the other guy, what was he like? I can't remember. Whatever, and be careful about wolves in sheep clothing, right? Yeah, that was something, that could, if possible, deceive the elect. So it seems like someone is very, very sneaky, proclaiming themselves Christians and even looking like it, and yet not really being it. I wonder who that could be. I think I have a suggestion. Maybe it's in regards of Roman Catholicism. And of course, Catholicism means universalism, right? Roman Universalism. Yep, they're really good at these, church councils in regards of ecumenical and destroying more and more of the Bible. You see, they have all these clever people, right? So-called clever people, trying to see how they could move around the Bible, Instead of just going back to the Bible and say, yeah, the Bible says this and that, we're going to follow that. Well, instead of doing that, just breaking more and more, We shouldn't really care about what church council says, We should go back to the Bible. And the canon laws, burn them in the fire. Like Martin Luther did, the bowl of the poop and the canon laws, he burned them in the fire. And that's where they belong. So, anyway, as far as I can see, and that's, not to beat the, what do you call, but, because there's some good information in regards of from Czech publications, for example. I don't understand this depicting God and, forcing this doctrine of going directly to heaven. It just seems, wrong to me, but yeah, whatever. Any case, I guess that's pretty much it. So that's as far as I can go. I guess I should get the food and all that. Anything else? I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, this is a doctrine that a lot of people are promoting. That hey, we're going directly to heaven when we die, and that's as far as I can see, that's just not what the Bible says. The meek shall inherit the earth. Yeshua says that. In regards of resurrection, Peter teaching, or the disciples teaching resurrection in the name of Yeshua, and the Pharisees and the leaders of the Jews don't like that. That's the beginning of the book of Acts, and then we have the first and the second resurrection, for example, written in the book of Revelation, where we have the first resurrection, 1,000-year reign on earth, and then a second resurrection. Of course, that's a doctrine that Roman Catholics reject as well. I was very early on, they began to reject the so-called Jewish fairy tales, Incredible. So they went for attacking that doctrine, and they went to attack Passover as well. So, of course, all Asia, which I would have, we have so much material that has been lost. Again, Satan has he's very good at censoring things. Yeah, it's very sad. I would really have. Anyway, there's a lot to read and all that. But that's as far as I might be wrong, but as far as I can see, it's just not. We're not going to heaven when we die. We're going, another point. Where did Yeshua go when he died? Where did he go? Did he go to heaven? He went to heaven. Yeah. No. Yeshua went to Sheol, which is Hades, which is the realm of the dead. The place of the dead, some call it the underworld. I don't know if that's, it's not the term that I would use, but, some call it the underworld, the place of the dead, the realm of the dead, that is Hades, Sheol in Hebrew, and Hades in Greek and all that. That's usually what it's translated to. And then we have the lake of fire, and that's another doctrine that people tend to mix together. They mix the lake of fire in regards of Gehenna with Sheol or Hades or the realm of death, and it's just incredible, So I think it is a problem. It's a big problem. Sadly, I think we can thank the King James Version for that, for most of the confusion on that doctrine. Yeah, the King James Version is not perfect. I'm not saying it's a bad translation, but it's not perfect, that's for sure. Just look at the concordance on it. You see one word from Hebrew, and it's just translated to multiple words, How are you going to find connections and all that if you don't know what is actually behind that original? Sadly, there's a lot of things that when you translate Gehenna as hell, and then in regards to the Old Testament, translate Sheol as hell, you have a big problem, because they are two different things, and people mix it up together and they don't understand that there's actually a lake of fire and, the place of the dead. And the place of the dead, according to the book of Revelation, is cast into the lake of fire. Okay? So, at the second resurrection, at the end of the world, before God is going to make a new earth and new heavens and all that. Yeah. Anyway, I'm still trying to figure things out, but yeah, doing the best that I can. But yeah, it's just yeah. So, but it is a very popular doctrine in regards to this going to heaven, and again, you see a lot of different pagan religions believing this, and they get these experiences as well, to go to heaven and all that, and you really have to be careful, that's just all, Anyway, so even if you go to Jerusalem, you have all these graves at the Mount of Olives. Now, why would they have all these graves at the Mount of Olives? Well, because the Jews know that Yeshua is going to, they don't believe in Yeshua, but they know the Messiah, will come at that mountain. So they hope to be resurrected first, And, well, I don't know about that because they rejected the Messiah, but we'll have to, that's up, I don't know. It's trying to, I don't know what will happen in regards of, and, you know, yeah, just I don't know how many will actually be, we'll have to see, right? But yeah, that's the idea. So they have all these graves on the Mount of Olives that also will be split in two, by the way. And someone probably should tell those people living up on the mountain that, hey, it's going to be split at some point, so your market value might not be so great anymore. That's just whatever. But yeah, so, but yeah, the Jews really know a lot of prophecies in regards of these things that is yet to be fulfilled. So that's interesting. They have a lot of focus on that. And of course, when you see the Gospels, you see him talking to, is it Peter or something like that, or some of the other disciples, and that's, talking about things, and Yeshua is trying to turn them back, to these things. Maybe it was not only Peter, also so he's turning them back, maybe multiple times actually in the New Testament, where he's trying to make them look at, because they are focusing on what the Jews are still focusing on, in regards of, this and that and all that, and the kingdom of the kingdom of heaven and all that. And that's in regards to the kingdom of heavens in the, down here, where Yeshua will rule the whole world after he cast the Antichrist into the lake of fire. That's still future. Anyway, and of course that would be the guy at the seat of the papacy, the seat and office of the papacy at that point, and you have all these, you have the kings going up to war against Yeshua and all that. He says, yeah, how deluded can you be, doing that? How evil can you be to do that, Anyway, so yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. It's just interesting how you see this promotion of this doctrine of heaven, going directly to heaven. I just don't see that. I really don't see that. There's just real, resurrected. And again, the meek are going to, inherit the earth. Yeah, not the heavens, but the earth. And then Jehovah will create, a new heaven and a new earth at the, when Sheol is cast into the lake of fire and all that, and death is also cast into the lake of fire. So this is the beginning, or the end of this fallen age, and then we will live with Yeshua or God, in this new world, and yeah, forever. Sounds pretty extraordinary, That's really interesting. Yeah, that's pretty much it, What does it, just, yeah, going to inherit, not something, paradise will be restored, at that point. When death is no more, paradise will be restored. Yep. And that's still future. So, at the moment, we have death all around us. We are falling down, dying, to the left and the right. It's very sad. We have suffering. We have evil going around. We have huge amount of things going on in this world of lies and deceptions, and it's just evil. Corruption. It's an evil world. It's an evil world. And, it will be nice to have God ruling in the world, instead of, Anyway, I guess that's all for me. I guess I'm rambling a little. Anyway, have a good one. No one is seeing these videos anyway, right? So, yeah. It's interesting to see some of these people actually speaking truth and seeing how few actually are looking at the videos. And then you go to some sport crap and all that has nothing, and you have just millions and millions of hits, with these, the Roman arena, the Roman Colosseum, the Roman circus, pretty much. And in regards of the Roman theater as well, in regards of movies and, desensitizing us for sin and all these sensuality, crap, bullshit music that is found. It's pagan, satanic bullshit and just going downhill. It's just yeah, and the feminist satanic movement as well. Everything is just bullshit in this world. Anyway, have a good one. And may Jehovah be with you, and Yeshua be a most precious pearl, and the Spirit of truth be in us all. Amen. Have a good one, and take care, and read the Bible. It is, if you want to have opened your eyes to what is really going on, you really have to, begin to study the Bible. Find out who Yeshua is in regards to the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And if you want to find out what is going on in history, read the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. You see, the Protestants knew these things. They knew who the Antichrist was. The Antichrist is the papacy, or as I call it, the poobacy. So they all knew it. And the devil is trying to deflect this away and, we have to have political correctness and all that bullshit. Well, who's the highest political authority on this earth? Oh yeah, that's the Antichrist, the Roman Emperor. Not going to go with that. Who wants to be political correct anyway? Following that bullshit. We want to stand with God's word. Anyway, so yeah, begin to research the truth, And if you have enough resources and all that, right? If you have a lot of money and all that, just take a break from work, and sit down and read the Bible, the money is not going to last anyway, going to die at some point, right? So better to figure out what is the truth, I think it's pretty important. Take a break from work, and study the Bible and relax with the Bible and, and read. And the best blessing, as far as I know, is to actually read it at the Sabbath, the seventh day, and that's from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. No, it's not Sunday. That's that's bullshit tradition that we have. In Denmark, we by man-made decree in 1973, they changed it, So the last day became the sixth day, and the first day became the last day. It's utter bullshit. Utter bullshit. Anyway, have a good one. I'm going to go now, just speaking the same things, and no one sees it anyway, right? Just incredible how much we don't care about the truth, It's very sad. Very sad.